Hey folks, I am doing a little work and I thought I would jump on here because according to what I've been watching so far right now, Marco Rubio just came on and said that there's actual invasion taking place. Gosh, this is so loud. Hold on a second. So if you're joining, this is super informal. I really am curious, preparing for the show tomorrow, which I definitely kind of stretch out over the course of time, to talking a lot about Ukraine. And according to what I've just been hearing on Fox News right now, that invasion has begun. And we've been talking on the air like we're interviewing all of these highly positioned, really smart people, and it's like we keep seeing the invasion could start any second now, and it appears as though that's possibly happening. But I'm really curious what your thoughts are right now on this issue. I'm super curious how like plugged in and in tune you are to what's going on around the world. James says foreign policy and new computers are the same. It's hard to get them both to work. This is an old computer, and I'm trying really hard not to have to buy a new MacBook Pro because they are pricey. And this is a 5-year-old computer, and it's served me very well. If it's time to put her down, then she's lived a good life. But the screen got jacked up, and so I think that it's toast. I'm backing it up and just reading and putting some stuff together. Hi, Carlo. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. So I'm curious, and I would love to hear from you, your comments on, Ukraine. Do you pay attention to it? Basically, if you listen to the show, noon to 3 on 97.1 in St. Louis, or if you stream us live here on YouTube, Facebook, we're on Twitter and Twitch right now as well. Is this a topic that you are super interested in and you're hanging by every moment and every move? Or is it something that you, like if I cover it, then that's what you know. If I don't cover it, you're not like Googling it to find out more. Hey, Brad, if you want to jump on, feel free to. I don't want to time pirate all of your evening. I got to turn this space heater off because it's super loud. What else is making noise? Oh, it's my computer that's making so much noise. Let me turn the space heater back on. On the computer front, however, my MacBook, which is, like I said, from 2017, it's a MacBook Pro. I do video editing. I do Photoshop. I run some highly intensive, need lots of speed, lots of memory and all that. And right now I have a bunch of lines in my screen, so I'm trying to figure it out. And I just got off the treadmill, and so I didn't take the time to fix this. Let's see here. And my husband, as a teacher, has a learn from home. He's teaching from home tomorrow as e-learning for their school, and my kids are off because of the weather. So it's kind of like everything is in flux right now. Carlos says Ukraine is going the way of Crimea, which was lost on the Obama-Biden watch. Yeah, I think that's actually happening right now. It's 4:45 in the morning there, it says in Ukraine. And so I would assume that in about 3 or 4 hours, daylight will shed some literal light on what has been taking place there. Holy cow. So how much of this are you paying attention to? How much of this is like important for you to know the details? Do you want to know the blow by blow? Do you want to know everything that's going on? There's a lot of other stuff in the news in the world that is to be talked about and discussed. And I hate to overlook these other things, but then again, I need to ask this question of an expert, but like, is there something comparable in my lifetime to this? Maybe, I'm 37 years old. I mean, nothing that I recall, nothing that I remember. The way we fought the war on terror was obviously our thing, but having other countries invading other countries like this and really potentially, I don't know how bad it could be. I just don't know what I don't know. But I'm also curious how much you care about the details, because it's my job to come on noon to 3 on 97.1 and talk to you about these things. And talking about the things that matter to you. Ukrainian invasion is a good thing. It means that Ukraine is in high demand. Jen Psaki probably. I don't know that she said that. Carlos says hi to Brad. Tommy says hi to Brad. Everyone says hi to Brad. Good. Say hi to Brad. James says, watching Fox News right now, not seeing any footage yet. This is world news, as it will impact everyone in some way or another, maybe many ways. I mean, it's interesting to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, gas prices are going to go through the roof, and all of our goods are going to go up, because if energy prices go up, then obviously the cost to get everything to the store and so on and so forth, that's all going to go up. Brad, I see Brad's in the green room. You put yourself in when you're ready to go. I don't want to put you in too soon here. Just curious how you guys feel. Gene says the left predictions was true, but they missed it by one president. Yeah, no kidding. Brad, can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're all good. That's wonderful. Were you watching news at all?
No, I was actually watching YouTube clips of 8 out of 10 cats does countdowns.
See, this is like where I am right now. I have no idea what you said, but it's probably, is it about what I assume that it is?
What do you think it is?
What is it?
8 out of 10 cats does countdown.
What does that mean?
It's a British panel show called 8 out of 10 Cats, and it's hosted by a bunch of, it's hosted by Jimmy Carr, who's a comedian. And then they have other
Are the cats men?
There's no cats.
People? They're not, okay. So I'm thinking you're watching cat videos.
No.
Where like cats are rating things.
No, it's British humor, so.
Either way, probably the same for me. David says on Facebook, this is what happens when we have weak leadership. Ball says hi, Brad.
Hi, Balls. I keep wanting to say his name because we're almost on a first. Well, we're on a first name.
You basis. You are on a first name basis, but you're not supposed to say his name.
Yeah.
Steve says it's stupid. The Bidens are too involved. Amy says Canada got the distraction they wanted. So I don't know if you saw this tonight, Brad, but did you see that Trudeau removed the Emergencies Act?
That I did see. Yeah, just like that. He's like, okay, we're done now.
Yeah. Once everybody quits and submits to what he wants, then he's like, see, everything can be fine. This is how we have nice things.
I still don't know that everybody quit and submit, though. I mean, they were beaten into submission. I don't know that they just. I mean,
that's up. I don't mean that disparagingly, but I think that's how Trudeau sees it. That he got what he wanted, and they're not out there anymore, and so he can put order back in place. But he never. I mean, did the Canadian. I'm not saying it's all for naught, but did they get what they wanted?
The truckers? No, they didn't get what they wanted. They got attention, though. And I think maybe that attention played a big role in what Trudeau did, because he was like, all right, I'm going to smash this. And then he kind of got look around, was like, oh, I might have stepped across the line here. I think this was him almost admitting that the Emergency Act was going too far.
Strange that he would pull it back like the day after he asked for it to be extended and told everybody in his own parliament that if you vote against this, then like this means that you don't think that the government should be making all of these decisions, that is the government is capable of making these good decisions. It's like, so which not Billy Madison, which Adam Sandler movie is things that could have been useful to me yesterday? Which one is that?
I don't know.
Oh, Wedding Singer, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's the kind of the one Adam Sandler movie. That one in Spanglish that I'm not really familiar with.
Wedding Singer I highly recommend. I've never seen Spanglish. Let's see. James says we all need to be concerned about this event for the people of Ukraine and the negative impacts across the globe. Dave says peacekeeping mission. Yeah, a lot of people are saying peacekeeping as in they're peacekeepers, as in they invade and then they keep the peace that they invade. Yeah. Tim says hi. Hi, Tim. Thanks for watching. A little before your time was the horrors in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I remember asking an immigrant what she did, and she said, I was a refugee, and before that, a student. Ugh. Poor Eastern Europe. Charles says Biden and Obama had this in the works since Obama was in office. It's being exploited to keep our attention off what's really going in our country, on our country, on the southern border, and COVID nonsense. I know that there are people, you folks have messaged me to suggest that this is all like a ruse in order to keep our attention off of the failures of the Biden administration. And my response to that, and I talked about this a little bit on the show today, is those failures are very obvious to a lot of people. And I think that it's just a disaster area, Brad. Like everywhere you look right now, there's nowhere for the Biden administration to hang their hat at all.
No, there's there's literally like they were the only thing they were above water on was COVID, and even that they're underwater now. That was kind of the only thing that they've pulled well on since the beginning, and they're even doing poor on that. I think they're at like 47% approval or something on that.
It's not good.
So I don't know that I buy the thought that this is a like a distraction. I think this is a real situation. I think this is a result of the Biden administration's failures, but I don't think that this is a distraction conjured up by the Biden administration.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Sarah, I was asking Brad, we kind of juggle this every day. Like, how much do we talk about Russia and Ukraine the entire day? And, I can't give you the blow by blow of what's taking place in Ukraine because I don't know what it is. And B, a lot of times I have to remember that if you're obsessed with these details, you're probably sitting next to a television and watching them. And, if you can't be by a TV, it's very difficult to listen to that kind of play-by-play where it's a lot of repeating of itself. That's why doing like live breaking news, which I don't know, Brad, if in the time that you have been with us in the show, which is 6 months plus, 6.5 months.
Yeah, since early September.
We haven't had any, thank God, major events that require us to like, where we are sitting as broadcasters, our responsibility is to deliver what is going on, but at the same time your jaw is dropped just like everybody else's, but the responsibility for me to constantly be bringing you that information up to date, and Brad and I together making sure that we're producing a quality product that keeps you informed. Tim says, where is Ryan and what's his thoughts on this? I have no idea, so I'm going to text him right now and see if he wants to come on here with us.
I imagine right about now he's passed out in a beanbag chair covered in gummy bears.
Send pictures. Hey, what are you doing? Just say that. One time he came, remember when he left his coat at my house? When we did the Christmas party here? He came to pick it up like almost a month later. And he didn't tell me he was coming to my house. He just, all of a sudden I got a text that said, "Can I come in?" And I was like, And then I realized he was at my house, wanting to get his coat. He says, watching Free Guy. What's that?
That's that Ryan Reynolds movie where he's like a non-playable character in a video game and realizes that he's in a video game. So kind of breaks the fourth wall. That's a movie that seems like it'd be right up Ryan's alley.
He said, and writing. I'm going to say, we are doing a live stream and people want your thoughts. I should say person. People want your thoughts if you're free. He won't know that any of this is going on, I'm sure, because he, like I, usually go home and like wrestle the kids to bed and so on and so forth. Matt says this is much like China and Hong Kong at the beginning of COVID. And next will be Ton. Matt, you follow me on Twitter, right? I just put 2 and 2 together. Is that right?
Matt, I think Matt follows me on Twitter as well.
He says, let me get my good computer. He's going to join us. Let me see here, Matt. Yeah, that is awesome.
Cool.
Matt works in radio, from what I understand. So yeah, we're getting Ryan in here.
So my Fox News headline says that Putin declares, was it a
special military operation?
Yeah. I pulled it up and I hit it, and now I can't read the headline. I've got to wait for it to load because
I can read it here because I got the same one. Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is warning its citizens across the border in Russia to depart immediately Wednesday as uncertainty surrounds Russia's next military moves. Russia has amassed more than 190,000 troops along the Ukrainian border, the U.S. says. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has told the United Nations Wednesday in New York that we are at a critical juncture in world history, and our actions today define it for decades to come. Key Ukrainian government websites are being disrupted Wednesday in a new cyber attack, an official says, a day after the U.S., UK, and other Western nations sanctioned Russia for the actions in the Donbass and Luhansk regions. Fox News does this like live update blog as opposed to linking to real articles. And I understand if you like wanted to keep that page up 100% of the time, how that would be helpful. But they send out these links, like you're saying, these news alerts, notifications, you get them on your phone, and you click on it, and then it goes to this blog, or sometimes it goes away, and then it's like, where's the info? So if you really want to find something, you got to go like really search it out. It's very frustrating. What is he doing? Link? Oh, he needs a link. You need a link? Okay, stand by.
He's not part of the team, is he?
I have invited him and begged him. I mean, like any type of disconnect that Ryan has is, I'm sorry to say, on Ryan. Like today, when we're talking about audio and I didn't have his audio and I told him to put it in the Google Drive, he's like, yeah, I really need to get in that. I mean, I've been telling him for literally 2.5 years.
Yeah, I need to do that.
That you need to do this.
Yeah, it's like, stop procrastinating, then do it.
I can't. You're a grown man. And if you don't want to make this happen, I can't do it for you.
So were you running on the treadmill when you sent that tweet out about distance and stuff?
Maybe. Yeah.
How'd that go?
I mean, fine. I do. I mean, I don't believe you that you said you do 6.5 straight for 30 minutes.
When I was running a lot, I would do 7.5 straight.
But like today, minutes. If you got.
Oh no, not today. I'm still working back up to it.
So that's the hip goal.
Issues.
Okay.
I do 6.5 for 2 minutes and then walk for 3, and then as that becomes easy, then I bump up another minute. So it's kind of like Couch to 5K, but not officially.
So Couch to 5K, the app, is what I am doing, and I've done. I think today was day 4 or maybe 5 of it, and it's warm up and cool down for 5 minutes each, and then it starts with a minute and a half, like 60 seconds of running, and then a minute and a half of walking. And then you just alternate that until you do the cool down. And the first day, Terry made that King of the Studio. Nice.
So she made this for me whenever I was subbing, and so it said King of the Classroom, and then we just put a line through it and changed it to Studio.
Hey Ryan, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to be on screen. Okay, I don't want to put you in too soon. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
You're on the good computer.
Yeah, well, sort of. Good enough. Good enough, and I've got my old headphones on here.
Are those supposed to go over the top of your head or around the back?
I don't know. They make me look kind of like I have a round head.
Do you know about this?
I'm catching up. I saw that you went live, and then I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? So I've been trying to catch up, but the news sites, they're not really up to date. So I'm not. You're probably ahead of me.
Marco Rubio. Well, I mean, like we have talked on the air and off the air. We've been following it for 2 weeks, and it's like, what's going on? I don't really 100% know. Like, you kind of know what the end result is likely going to be, and you know, maybe this is just the way these things go, and maybe this is moving at a rapid pace. But because we follow things second by second now, it doesn't seem like it. But so they're saying that the invasion has like begun. Like, Marco Rubio came on and made that announcement on Hannity's show. He was on the phone, so it was obvious. I mean, it's not common on television for them to do phone interviews. And Marco Rubio called in, and he was basically saying that the invasion has begun. This is like a full scale situation, and he basically made it seem like this is no small peanuts. This is a big deal. And it has commenced. And by the time the sun comes up, it says right here, it's 5:02 in Ukraine. So when the sun comes up, we will probably see evidence of it, assuming that they can get the communications out to people.
So I had seen on Twitter where somebody was saying that it would be like 4:30 a.m. Russian time whenever they would go in, or Ukraine time whenever they would go in, and that seems to be holding true because you said it's what, 5 something over there now?
5:02.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's 7 hours difference from us.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a path for us to do anything here, because everything that should have been done way before this. So that doesn't make it like easier now, but it just means that, as we've been saying, they dropped the ball way before this moment, and so this is the outcome of bad decision making up till now.
Have you picked up on, I talked about this a bit in on the air today, but have you picked up on the political ramifications of this? Like, I was kind of I basically was calling out, I guess, our side for the obvious prioritization of, all right, no matter what happens next, folks, remember that things are really bad right now, and those things are Joe Biden's fault. Like that the concern, I don't even know how things, I mean, the only way that I think that people disassociate what's going on right now with the leadership is if things get better, then it is no longer, a negative on this administration, so politically disadvantageous for the Republican Party. But then that means things are getting better. So that would be that's a net win for the country. I don't think that things are going to get better. And I do think that gas prices are going to go up. And I do think that the cost of goods is going to continue to go up. And I don't think that the Democratic Party, Jen Psaki, or the Biden administration is going to be able to successfully argue, oh, things were going great until this happened. But, war does this to people, and we need to stay the course. I don't really feel like America is going to be in a position to buy that. Do you get what I'm saying, Ryan?
Yeah, but I also, a couple thoughts. One is that I honestly think the gas price thing, so divorcing this from the context of who to blame, but the gas price thing, I don't think is going to be, this is going to be fear that drives it up a little bit right now. But I don't think we're getting a ton of Russian gas anyway. We're not taking a ton of Russian oil. Now, the rest of the world is using it, so it might drive up prices internationally, which might drive up prices.
Yeah, I think goods are going to go up more, as I think that the cost of everything is going to continue to go this way. And that's the way it's been going for a while. Like, it to me, watching some of the Republican punditry panic about this, I'm like, I don't think that on the political scene that this is going to be bad for Republicans.
No. And but I also think that all of the price increases, I don't really think they're related to war in Ukraine. I do think that you're right. They're going to go up. They're not going to stop. And this isn't going to help, especially because it affects domino effect energy, which is going to affect everything. But I don't think this alone is going to be something that's driving our economy or changing our economy a ton, at least quickly, other than the fear factor and the way the market responds to it.
Well, the energy market will respond quickly, right?
Right.
Most of Europe gets their natural gas from Russia, and a lot of that, like, I was just reading here, it says a couple of words. This is from Putin in his announcement. He said a couple of words for those who would be tempted to intervene. Russia will respond immediately, and you have consequences that you've never had before in your history. So, he turns the taps off, and then energy prices in Europe go through the roof. Well, if energy prices in Europe go through the roof, that drives up the cost of their goods, and then that then increases our goods. It's a global market. I know there's a lot of people out there who's like, we need to get away from globalism, but we have a global market. That's just the way things are, and any little thing in one part of the world will ripple out just like a pebble in a pond. It'll just affect everything. I think it can happen a lot quicker than what maybe you think it might.
And I also think it's too, like I was saying, and you kind of highlighted too, Ryan, is that it's not so much like the price at the pump. From what I understand, that's a pretty fickle industry. I feel like the absorption that the economies of the world are going to have of this concern, world travel, and the necessity of energy to get goods from point A to point B, and we are a country that imports quite a lot of stuff, that those energy costs are going to cause the mechanism that needs to be put into place to make a good and to get it to point B, that's going to rise. And I feel like you can raise a price on something right now, and there's 8 different reasons why that price could have gone up right now. Supply chain issues, staffing shortages where you can't do as much business as you could before, so you got to charge more to make enough to cover the bills and so on and so forth. I mean, there's kind of, to the point of what I'm saying here, is that I'm seeing people in the Republican Party like make sure they're like, put a pin in this moment right now. Understand how bad things were before this war started, and don't let this become an excuse that sidetracks you from who's really responsible for these issues. And I just don't see the American people like intellectually sitting down and parsing out, well, this was here then and that was there then. People honestly right now can't even remember what it was like to be normal. And what we have right now, nothing near normal.
This is such a political reversal. This is such a political reversal from the Iraq War, isn't it? I mean, how strange, because what we've seen is the political parties have shifted. And I don't think this is just like opportunism that's done this. I think the parties have actually changed that much in the last 20 years, that the Republicans used to be the hawks. And now Republicans are split between hawks and non-interventionists. And then you have liberals used to be all anti-war, and I'm talking to the furthest left. The further left you go right now, the more for war you seem to be. It's wild. But politically, what you're saying, Annie, is interesting, because we're saying, well, let's not forget, like, as if war is going to be a boon to Biden's poll numbers is what the fear seems to be. I just can't imagine that case.
I don't see anything that's taking place right now being of benefit to the Biden administration. But at the same time, take this whole situation, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, out of the conversation. There's nothing that's really going well for the Biden administration right now. So if there's a change of story and narrative, and it takes some of so much of politics is juggling stories. So you don't dwell in any one place too incredibly long. You work to try to constantly shift the narrative around, so that like the southern border is always story number 3. There's what's actually happening brand new in the world, like what's the breaking news, and then there's what happened yesterday, or the proverbial yesterday that we're getting over, and which is usually like a school shooting, or a super uptick in COVID cases or something like that, where we've been living in that space right now. Something racial certainly fits that bill. We've been living there, but the breaking news happens, so the breaking news takes the place of the thing we've been ruminating on for a while. But the third story is always the border, and the border could always be the first story. There are first story headline level issues coming out of what's taking place on the southern border every day, and we don't cover it because there's so much there, and it's like, we'll get to that when we get to that. I just look at the Biden administration. I said this today to both of you guys, like, name one thing that is the Biden administration. Like, what is the thing that Joe Biden brings to the table that this administration is doing that they're really succeeding on? And there isn't even a single thing to like teeter on. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, and honestly, Annie and Brad, I mean, what gonna do here? I mean, other than sanctions, which it seems like they're doing now, at least they're jumping on that bandwagon. What else are they gonna do? And this is just gonna look like another stupid loss, is what it's gonna look like.
I think so. I mean, Brad, do you have thoughts on instant ramifications, at least on the home front, for what's going on right now over there?
Like, what's going to happen for us, like, instantly?
If you didn't ever turn on the news, or you don't get news alerts on your phone, how do you realize that something in the world has shifted?
I think the first thing that we'll notice will be fuel prices. But I don't even know, like, I kind of, to Ryan's point, I think fuel prices will go up. I don't know if they're going to go up that much faster than what they've been going up, so I don't know if it'll even be perceptible. Because I mean it was on a pretty steep climb anyway. But
oops, sorry,
I
I'm talking from today's show.
I don't know if there's anything that you would instantly notice. But I do think there will be some long-term effects.
It's so sad because we were energy independent, and that means a lot of things, but we were basically we would have a year ago, regardless of who was president, we would have been able to weather an energy storm that apparently like this, and these things all happen because it's going to affect energy all over the world. But we would have been isolated enough from that aspect of it to weather this storm, which is the idea. And this president came in, and again, this is back to my original point when I first came on here. He came in and he did everything.
Ryan, you're breaking up. Do we have you still? Hold on a second. I'm going to put him back in. Nope. We lost him.
Am I gone?
Wait, Ryan. You're back.
Did I go away?
You said that the president came in, I think is what you were saying.
Well, he came in and the Keystone Pipeline was the first thing.
Yeah.
That's the one that got the as far as energy policy goes. And so it's the easiest one to remember and grab. But there's been so many other things that he's done. He put a moratorium on drilling on any federal land. And now the courts have stopped some of that, thank God, but not all of it. And he's done that across the board. And I honestly have no idea why. And now we're seeing the ramifications of this, and it's bad even for himself politically. It really makes.
You're still cutting out a little bit, Ryan, but let me read Ken's comment here. Liberal news sites are claiming this is absolutely the fault of Trump for his foreign policies when he was in office, including a former Trump advisor who is now a CNN contributor. Well, I don't understand how, did Donald Trump get credit when nothing like this took place while he was in office, but he gets the blame? What are we? It's February 15, 14 months, 13 months from the time that Biden has been in office. I mean, anything that's happened good in the last 13 months is certainly to Joe Biden's credit, but anything that happens bad is going to be Donald Trump's fault. It seemed to me like the initial thing that Joe Biden did was try to reverse every policy of President Trump's that he possibly could reverse. And energy was, like you said, Ryan, it was day one important for the Biden administration to say, screw that Keystone Pipeline, which had a lot of union support to it. So it's a conflicting lobbyist group of green energy people and climate changers to a lot of America's hardworking, backbreaking labor type of individuals that are in middle America. He picked, and he did not pick those middle American average Joes. He picked the climate change industry. And then to go on and thumbs up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline or whatever it was that he did over there. Like that was clearly what was important to him. And my question, I don't know, do either of you guys understand why the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is environmentally better than the Keystone Pipeline? I mean, is there a reason why Mother Earth is okay with the Nord Stream pipeline and not Keystone?
I don't even think they tried to pretend that it was. I don't
think just not here.
Said.
Well, yeah. Keystone was crude oil, right? And Nord Stream is gas?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then I think the Nord Stream, a big chunk of it goes underneath a sea or something like that, which to me, that's a bigger disaster waiting to happen than whenever it goes over land. I mean, and I don't know what natural gas does when it leaks, but if that were a crude oil pipeline under the sea, if that busts and it starts leaking, that's a huge disaster. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, what was it, the Exxon Valdez when it crashed and ran aground up in Alaska, and all the videos of just the animals covered in oil.
Awful.
Yeah, I don't know that they can make that argument that it's better for the environment.
So This Putin declares special military operation. I mean, like, the semantics of this are silly. Special military operation. I'm sure Ukraine's feeling real special being singled out right now. Ryan, how much do you think that, I don't know if you talk about these issues with friends and family or how much you're around them. You, like me, during the week are probably around a lot of little people that may have thoughts and opinions on things. But it's like, this mac and cheese isn't cheesy enough or something like that. Do you think that, two questions, do you think that people care about this? According to, let's see, Amy is saying sounds of bombs going off. Who just said, Amy said ABC is breaking in to Million Little Things to announce. So is this taking network news? Do people care? And the second question is, like, how much coverage does a 3-hour midday talk show, how do you respectfully handle something like this by covering it enough, but not to the point where it's too much, if there is even such a thing?
Yeah, the fact that they're breaking into network TV is pretty interesting, because this seems like one of those moments where you go, I think this is a big deal. I don't know exactly how it affects me. Therefore, I feel like I'm supposed to care more than I do. And I think that's most of America right now. How's it going to affect me is how they're responding to it. And it's the fact that they're breaking into news or general network television right now. I don't think that bodes well for people being on board with it. I think that's more like, oh crap, more stuff's going wrong, that's the only way it's breaking through to the general consciousness to America, is just that this is just another thing that's not going well. And I feel like I should care, but I really care more about how it affects me.
Yeah. I mean, are people, is the propensity for us to handle more things at one time, are we at a limit? We're handling a lot. Like, we're handling more than we are supposed to be. I mean, in general, your job, your family, and paying the bills, and making ends meet, and making all those things work as in simpatico as possible. That's stressful. And then you add in all of these other things, specifically a pandemic, where I really believe that when we look back on the last 2 years that we've lived, it will be hard to remember what it was really like. Like, you'll remember, yeah, I do believe so. Watching people say, screw the masks, F the masks, get them out of here, I'm over it, I'm done with it, on such a large scale, and knowing that it's impactful enough that blue states across the country know they have to do this for the politics of it, make me think we're going to get back to a place. We might live our lives differently, but that's just life. Individually making those choices as to how we're going to live our lives differently. But I do believe we're going to get back to that. But you add in the political landscape that we're in on top of a pandemic, on top of those basic things. War? Like, how many Americans out there are going to go, Brad, you're a pastor, so you talk to people about, I'm sure, about, just everyday stressors, and without having all of these things added on top. This is a very stressful time to be alive.
Incredibly stressful. And I think the other thing is too, like, when you talk about war, I don't see the appetite. I don't see this as a positive thing. I think this is going to reflect poorly. And I think that if the Biden administration thought this would be a rally around the flag moment, it's going to blow up in their face. But I don't even think that they thought that. I think they just mishandled it. Carafano comes on all the time, and he says that foreign policy...
Good.
Foreign policy is the last thing on this administration's mind. They're really they're just overly concerned with domestic policy. And so I think that they just kind of took their eye off the ball across the world, and now that's fallen apart. And I don't see how this plays well for the Biden administration. So, and to your point about people wanting this, no, they don't want it. No, no, I don't want to have to talk to people and be like, yeah, I know we're at war, but this is pretty, a pretty big deal, actually. So
I agree. Do you think that this is Kiev that I'm pulling up here, and I'm sorry if any of these comments down here are inappropriate because I'm seeing some of them that are. Hold on a second. How do I make that better? How about no chat? Golly, that's terrible. Maybe I'll just leave it there. So this is Kiev. Like, you can see on this screen that there are like no cars driving around. It is 5:22, I guess, in the morning there, so it wouldn't be highly trafficked at this point in time. I was trying to see if there was something taking place right now that would be. I hope this isn't. I don't want to show anything bad while I'm browsing, but and like, what is the possibility that what we see live is accurate? I mean, I don't know the difference between stuff that is propaganda, and stuff that is. I would assume there's a big propensity for propaganda like stuff to be put out there.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those things that, again, I mean, we're talking about the actual things happening right now and not everything that's happened up until now. But can you imagine if Don Jr. had deep financial ties to Venezuela or something, and Brazil decided to invade Venezuela, and we were like, nope, we're not going to let that happen. Everybody be talking about the deep financial ties to Don Jr., and nobody mentions that.
I asked people who are regular contributors to our show about the connection there, because I think that it's a question that I want to have answered. And I've been told that is not, that this is bigger. This is way bigger than that. And I
hope that's true.
I mean, these are people who I'd asked this question to. These are people who I would trust their word on this more than anybody else who I could ask about these types of things, understanding, world affairs and global affairs. But because I said, I'm like, please tell me that there's no connection between a president, Donald Trump was impeached over a phone call with the president of Ukraine, and the conversation between President Trump and President Zelensky of Ukraine was about Hunter Biden. Like, that was the point of the call. It was about the son, the incredibly troubled son of the man who's currently the president of the United States. Is our response or lack of response in any way, shape, or form influenced? Not like, is it because of it, but is there any sort of connection or influence? And the answer was definitely not, that is not. And I basically took that as, okay, like, I'm not going to ask. I didn't need to ask 10 other people, because I'd always have wanted to know the answer from this specific one person, what they thought about it. And that's what they said. So, but I mean, I understand the suspicion. Or the,
I believe
question.
that. I believe these people saying that it's probably true. It's just, I just question how much of a relationship would we even have with Ukraine at this point, if not for the Trump administration, the impeachment on the phone call, the relationship with Hunter and being paid so much by Burisma. I mean, maybe we would still be doing the exact same thing, but clearly we and our leadership of the country has a pretty established relationship with this country that I don't know if we'd have otherwise.
Well, I know you were off when we interviewed John Chimkus, but he, his responsibility there and his responsibility with the Ukrainian people was pretty deep, and he was there to help oversee the election of Zelensky or the installation, or I can't remember, like, the entirety of what he was supposed to do. But understanding his connection to it, like, the United States Ukraine connection exists outside of the Biden family, but it certainly exists within the Biden family as well. He's the vice president of the United States, and he was over there. He's, famously in front of them, telling them that they needed to fire I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm like, not in my mental file drawer of the random things that I happen to know at any given time. But the somebody about like the corruption investigator or something like that they're saying that he was corrupt and he needed to be fired and so on and so forth. Vicky says, Annie, check out Marco Rubio's Twitter. He's laying out what's going on. Let's pull that up here. I will share my screen.
That comment from Lisa there, will the USA survive this debacle of an administration? Everything is going to hell in a handbasket or hell in a handbag. Absolutely no leadership. It's true. It's really sad to sit here and watch it because it's not just domestic, although we feel it all, the stuff that's happening here and everything across the board. But Brad said it, he's just kind of let and we're dealing with this over and over within barely over 1 year. This is a second huge international incident. The first one being Afghanistan that is directly caused by Biden's decisions. This one indirectly, but still could have been avoided.
I would say, though, that I absolutely think that the United States is bigger than one person, that the United States, the way we are built and the way we are structured, if you have that fret and that fear about yourself right now, I mean, what do I know? I'm Midwestern mom of four who pays a lot of attention to this stuff, but I don't have any insider knowledge. I talk to experts every day, but my conversations with those experts are open to the world. So you know what I know about from the majority of them. But I think that what makes our country different, which I think is going to be very interesting to watch in a apples to apples comparison of the Freedom Convoy that's going to cross this country and how that's going to be handled comparative to how it was handled in Canada. And Canada is it feels like it's supposed to be kind of, comparative in freedom structure. I don't want people to think ever that if Joe Biden is going to ruin this country. I don't think he's that powerful. I don't think that if Donald Trump or any Republican gets elected in 2024 that they're powerful enough to save the country. I don't think that any individual person has that much strength and power about themselves. I think it will have to come from the people. So, I mean, is it possible to lose what we have? It is. But when people are still paying attention and still caring, and which I definitely see a reinvigorated passion for what it means to be American right now. Unfortunately, we had to have, the surface scratched on having what we feel is American about our lifestyle, have that be threatened a little bit. I don't think that Joe Biden is powerful enough to ruin it. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think Biden, or like you said, it's going to take more than any one person to completely destroy or completely save this country. And you mentioned it earlier where, people throwing off the mask and fighting back and stuff like that. If you want to know what America is, that's what America is. It's not our presidency. It's not our president. It's not our government. America is the American citizen. And there is a breaking point. And that's kind of the way we've always been. We get to a certain point and then we snap back like a rubber band because we're tired of all the nonsense. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing happen now. That's what the trucker convoy is going to be about. It's just people getting tired and fed up. And that same spirit, that American, don't tell me what to do attitude will always rise up and push back against a bad system, a bad administration, a bad whatever you want to call it. And the fortunate thing is we get to replace that administration every 4 years and we get to overhaul it every 2 years. So, we have the opportunity when we're like, this is not the right way, that we can vote pretty quickly and change how things are going. So people can't, it's bigger than any one person.
Yeah. I mean, when you use phrases like save, I'll have to agree with you that one mortal man isn't going to come in and either save or destroy anything. But the outsized power of the presidency, which has been growing in the last at least couple decades, makes that position more important than it ever has. And so you have somebody who's good. And Trump would use his position in ways that really I wasn't really comfortable with, but he would do it for outcomes that I liked. So you kind of go, I don't like this. But now, you have the reverse. Joe Biden is able to do more things as a president, like Obama was, through executive order and things that he can do that in the past probably would have been rebuffed by Congress more. I will say this, and this isn't necessarily related to Ukraine, but when I think about inflation and how badly he's running the economy, or Democrats in general, through spending mostly, and governors and shutting down things, we've not seen that particular thing, but we've seen inflation actually worse than this, or at least similar to this, under another really bad president, Jimmy Carter. And we came back with a really good decade right after that. So, that kind of stuff gives me hope that you're like, this is a huge, huge economy that we have here. And no, it's not granted that we'll always have that. And we have to continue to have good foundations to keep that running well. But you can, in this, because of momentum, survive 4 years of really bad economic news and even inflation, and then still come back strong. And so, you hope stronger. Yeah. And so Biden, I don't see him reversing that in the next 3 years. However, 3 years is an eternity. Let's try to weather that and come back stronger.
Listen to did you read this tweet by Marco Rubio? The people of Ukraine are tough people who will never accept being ruled by Putin. Men, women, children, the elderly, they are going to fight. They are going to maim and kill a lot of Russians.
Wow, no.
That's wild. That's real. I mean, that to me is shocking to read that and put that into context of my life, to think about what would be going on right now. Russia is now working on establishing air superiority via targeted surgical strikes, pincer movement to trap Ukrainian forces in the east and cut them off from Kiev. Finally, attempt to decapitate Ukrainian government by targeting government buildings, leaders, and command and control systems. Russia's airborne forces are this is 2 minutes ago, attempting to take control of the airport in Kiev, or Kyiv, as they say in Ukraine, so they can fly in forces to occupy the capital city. An amphibious assault on the key port city of Mariupol is now underway. Ground forces now moving in from Belarus, Crimea, and from Russia. Sounds like it's on.
Yeah. Also sounds like he doesn't just want a bite. He wants the whole thing.
Ground for yeah, this is what I just read. That was the follow-up.
Quick story. I had a friend at the beginning of COVID he's a missionary, international missionary, left the United States and had to do, for some reason, don't know why, had to do a 3-month stint overstay before going to Africa in Ukraine. And in Ukraine, got stuck there a little bit longer than he was expecting because of COVID, and was in Ukrainian churches, and said it was such an eye, because he'd been in Africa quite a bit. And obviously every culture is a little bit different, and certainly their response to spiritual things is different. He said Ukraine was very, very interesting because they have, and just like in Russia and a lot of Eastern Europe, they have a very strong sense of hierarchy that we don't seem to have as much here. We're very independent-minded, very individualistic. And they seem to really respect authority a lot more. And he was talking about within the church, like a pastor would sort of say, this is the way it is. And the people would be like, okay, and they would just follow it. So hearing a lot about the way they're responding, you have two different kind of clashes of oligarchs of the Ukrainian leadership going against Russian leadership. So you have, in his words, people who are very willing to follow authority. So the question is, are they following Zelensky? Like what authority
What's their authority?
Are they following? Yeah. Because just culturally, that's sort of bred or ingrained into the way that they operate.
It is interesting. White House is out with a statement. President Biden's statement, the prayers of the entire world are with the people of Ukraine tonight as they suffer an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring, and the United States and its allies and partners will respond in a united and decisive way. The world will hold Russia accountable. I will be monitoring the situation from the White House this evening and will continue to get regular updates from my national security team. Tomorrow, I will meet with my G7 counterparts in the morning and then speak to the American people to announce the further consequences the United States and our allies and partners will impose on Russia for this needless act of aggression against Ukraine and global peace and security. We will also coordinate with our NATO allies to ensure a strong, united response that deters any aggression against the alliance. Tonight, Jill and I are praying for the brave and proud people of Ukraine. What's his next move? Like, what are the sanctions? Like, what are the repercussions that the Biden administration, the United States of America, have that are going to make Putin go, "Oh, I'm sorry, this was all a mistake"? Like, what? I don't even know what those things could be, other than we're going to kill you if you don't stop. I mean, this seems to be the language that Putin speaks, and I don't know that that's a language that's not a conversation we want to be having.
Yeah, outside of what's the purpose of NATO if not for something like this? Not that Ukraine's in NATO, but what's the purpose of having these alliances with these nations that, because we're not obviously not very close to Russia, but they are. And what are they going to do? As far as I know, Germany, the new chancellor, I guess, of Germany, who's taken over for Merkel, he has said already that they're cutting off that pipeline. And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I guess that's what Biden was talking about that he was going to do. And he was talking to Germany about doing it. And now they've done it. But aside from some of these ties that they have to Russia that they've made recently, which is, I mean, if you're Germany, why did you do that in the first place? You know, why did Biden allow him to do that? Or why did they not pressure him to not do that? So other than that, I don't know what else you're going to do. More sanctions, but you're already not that tied to Russia, except for these recent things. So I don't know.
Trey Yingst is in Kiev. He's the on-the-ground reporter for Fox News, and his tweet 27 minutes ago are explosions in Kiev. So that's a report that I trust fully. And that was 30 minutes ago. I would like an update on your well-being, Trey. The question that I have, and I think a lot of Americans are probably thinking right now, is that, okay, Ukraine's not in NATO, so we don't have that NATO obligation to defend them. So they take Ukraine, say they take the whole thing. It sure looks like that's what they're trying to do. They take the whole thing. Is he satisfied then? And like, and I'm not advocating for anything because I have no answers. I know one thing. I have a 12-year-old son, and I don't want him to be fighting in any wars that he hasn't signed up and chosen to fight in himself. But is like, does he get to have all of Ukraine? Does he get to have everywhere he's willing to conquer as long as they're not in NATO? I mean, that's the deal, isn't it?
Yeah, I am glad about one thing. I'm glad that this is a big deal as far as focus, because if he had been allowed to do this and there was no focus on it, not I don't know what the repercussions will be, but just the fact that there's a lot of people watching this and making a big deal about it, and because it is a big deal, just at least adds pressure to other nations that want to do it to not think that they can just, we'll just do it and nobody's going to notice. So I will say I like that, but that's not going to stop it either.
Jennifer Griffin has been really interesting to watch. She lived in Russia, right? Have you been following her at all? Either of you know?
I know who she is, but I haven't followed her.
She lived. I'm pretty certain that she lived in Russia. If it's not Russia, it's Ukraine. I'm pretty certain it's Russia. And so she's got a lot of firsthand up close experience with the culture and the way of the world over there. She says, U.S. officials tell me right now we are seeing the pre-assault fires. Expect this to go on for a few hours. Land attack to follow with all of the full forces Putin has arrayed. Explosions heard in Kyiv. Odessa, Mariupol, it's begun. Trump is on right now on Laura Ingraham. I don't know.
And it really started, I think, with the weakness
Can you hear
of
that?
Afghanistan, the way they pulled out of Afghanistan. I really believe that's where he started thinking, he can do this. Because when he saw how pathetic.
Yeah, President Trump, I want to just ask you this. We understand that President Biden is monitoring the situation at the White House now and is going to talk to the G7 tomorrow. Tomorrow? And he's going to talk to the nation at some point tomorrow as well. Your reaction to that approach?
I don't think he's monitoring. I think he's probably sleeping right now. This is a terrible thing. This is something that should have never happened. I really believe that it was Afghanistan when he looked at that horrible, weak pullout, one of the worst when the military gets pulled out first, when our soldiers are dying and horribly wounded. And, when we leave $75, $85 billion worth of equipment. They're one of the biggest sellers of military equipment in the world right now. They're selling the equipment that we left at $85 billion. And we left hostages behind, a lot of hostages, more than anybody knew. I think when they saw that, Laura, I think that they said, maybe we can do this.
President Trump, the burgeoning friendship between President Xi and President Putin is of deep concern now, finally, I should say, to the State Department, which described this as a potentially destructive force in the world. Gone is the hope for some new world order where everyone's going to get along. If you have our two major adversaries now working in concert, seemingly against the West, did you think that was an important dynamic to disrupt when you were president, given what a obviously powerful alliance that could end up being?
Well, I had a good relationship with both, but it was hurt by the Russia hoax, which was a total hoax. You see what happened with Durham and
treasonous.
Those reports and other reports, including Mueller. It was just a made-up hoax, and it really hurt our country. But despite the hoax, I had a good relationship and had a very good relationship with President Xi of China, other than he wasn't happy about the fact that I was tariffing and taxing the hell out of him, which somebody had to do finally after so many years. But I had a very good relationship. As a young man growing up, I always heard that the worst thing that can happen is if you drive those two countries together. And it really started with Obama and energy. He drove them together because one needed the energy and the other one needed the money. He drove them together, and Biden put them. I kept them apart. And Biden now it looks like it's a great love fest, and that's a very bad thing. It's for the fact. And I think you could probably add Iran into it, too, because they're including Iran also, Laura. It's a very bad thing what happened. Very, very bad thing.
How critical is it now? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how critical is it now that this administration, even with all of its climate change, fanaticism, that it moves to lower the cost of energy for Americans, given how we've already seen a huge run-up right up to this conflict? For a variety of reasons, but this is obviously not helping. Do you think this might break their desire to kill oil and gas, at least for a short period of time?
No, because just yesterday he ended a lot of leases and a lot of the energy and the oil. He ended leases just yesterday because it wasn't good for the environment. This whole environmental thing has gotten out of control. China doesn't adhere to it. Russia doesn't adhere to it. India doesn't adhere to it. Nobody adheres to it but the United States. He's driving us out of business. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. We have to get back into the real world now. We had energy at a level that nobody's ever seen. We would have been double the size of Saudi Arabia and Russia combined in 1 year. We were already bigger, and we were energy independent for the first time probably ever. They say in 72 years, probably ever. We were energy independent, and he blew it.
We're just learning that U.S. officials are looking at a potential amphibious landing now in Odessa, Ukraine. Again, a month ago or 3 weeks ago, all the so-called experts were saying that Putin was probably going to just be content with staying in those separatist regions. But I think given what's unfolded, sadly, with a lot of weakness in the United States, they just decided to go for it. I mean, it looks like they're going for it. And where does that leave NATO, the NATO alliance?
I think you're exactly right. I think that's what happened. He was going to be satisfied with the peace, and now he sees the weakness and the incompetence of the stupidity of this administration. And as an American, I'm angry about it, and I'm saddened by it. And it all happened because of a rigged election. This would have never happened. And that includes inflation, and that includes millions of people pouring in on a monthly basis, far more than 3 million people. And they're coming from 129 different countries. We have no idea what's happening, and they're destroying our country.
President Trump, we actually have, just hold on. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we have, we're going to the Pentagon, I believe. Ukraine, sorry. Ukraine is speaking at the UN.
I was intending to ask.
Hey, Brad, if you can find this on YouTube, we could share it straight from there. The Pentagon.
Okay. I've got it on YouTube TV, but it's from the Pentagon.
If the Pentagon, I don't think we can legally just stream Fox News because that's Fox News. But if you can find the Pentagon YouTube, then we can share it straight from there.
Because about 48 minutes ago, your president declared the war on Ukraine.
Do you guys see this, Ryan? While he's looking for that, do you see this tweet?
Mm-hmm. Stay on the record.
Is this a normal thing?
That at this very moment,
it's always on 24/7 standby. It's like a.
Your troops do not.
I googled it. It's like a command center in the sky.
Yeah,
and
it's basically an Air Force One with a command center.
Joint Chiefs and is that normal?
I don't know that it's normal. It's airborne.
Right now.
What, Ryan?
Doesn't it always track where it's going?
I mean, you can track it, but is it normally up in the air? Joey Jones retweeted it, so I'm kind of like,
If you are not,
it's got 115,000 followers with 305 people.
The Russian Federation ought to relinquish responsibilities of the president of the Security Council.
Yeah, how about this tweet?
Pass these responsibilities on to a legitimate member of the Security
I've got
Council.
it.
All right, why don't you pop it in?
That is respectful of the.
Let me take it off of mute.
Ambassador, shall I do that right now, or you can confirm it? Do not interrupt me, please. Thank you.
This is the UN.
Ask me questions when
Yes.
you're speaking. Proceed with your statement.
Anyway, you declare the war. It is the responsibility of this body to stop the war. So I call on every one of you to do everything possible to stop the war. Or should I play the video with your president declaring the war? Thank you very much.
Опять я вынужден сказать.
Against, I must say that I thank the representative of Ukraine for his statement, and the questions, I wasn't planning to answer them because I've already said all I know at this point. Waking up Minister Lavrov at this time is not something I plan to do. You said the information that we have will be something we provide. And this isn't called a war, this is called a special military operation in the Donbass. I now give the floor to the representative of Germany.
Mr. President, we meet at the very moment of a military escalation we have not experienced in Europe for over a generation's time. The President of the Russian Federation announced a military operation on Ukrainian territory. We condemn this in the strongest possible terms. And we call upon all members of the Security Council and the United Nations to now stand up for Ukraine and against a shameless breach of international law. 2 days ago, Russia's decision to recognize the self-proclaimed so-called People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk was harshly rejected in this council. It had already dealt a devastating blow to the principles and the international order that the United Nations stand for. Russia has not listened, and it turns out it was not prepared to listen. It has continued its massive military buildup And we observed and observe cyber attacks directed against Ukraine, and now Russian military is moving into Ukrainian territory. By the actions and this unprovoked military operation, Russia is violating the core principles of the UN Charter. We condemn the use of force against innocent people and the violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine in the strongest possible terms. We urge Russia to terminate its military action against Ukraine immediately and withdraw its troops. Mr. President, our thoughts are with the Ukrainian people. We will be steadfast in our support for Ukraine and our support for the UN Charter. The Russian aggression will come at an unprecedented price politically, economically, and morally. Mr. President, France, Ukraine, and my country stood ready for diplomacy, for another meeting in the Normandy format, or for the summit that Ukraine had proposed. With our allies and partners, we called on Russia to seek a diplomatic way forward in vain. Now is the moment to speak up and defend the international order of the UN Charter against unilateral aggression, jointly and decisively. Tonight, we stand with Ukraine, and we are doing so unwavering and determined. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Germany for her statement. And now I give the floor to the United States, who wish to make a further statement.
Thank you. In my remarks tonight, I said that we predicted Russia's false flag attacks, the misinformation, the theatrical emergency meetings, and the cyber attacks. But one piece had not come to pass. Unfortunately, while we've been meeting in the Security Council tonight, it appears that President Putin has ordered that last step. At the exact time as we are gathered in the council seeking peace, Putin delivered a message of war in total disdain for the responsibility of this council. This is a grave emergency. The council will need to act, and we will put a resolution on the table tomorrow. As President Biden said tonight, Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring, and the United States and our allies and partners will respond in a united and decisive way. The world will hold Russia accountable. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for her statement, and now I'd like to give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom, who asked to make a further statement.
Thank you. As we sat in this chamber urging Russia to step back, President Putin announced special military operations on Ukrainian territory. This is unprovoked and unjustified. This is a grave day for Ukraine and for the principles of the United Nations. We and our partners have been clear that there will be consequences for Russia's actions. We fully support the United States call for a UN Security Council resolution. This council must do all it can to stop the war and uphold the Charter. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom, and now I'll give the floor to the representative of Albania, who also wished to make a further statement.
Dear colleagues, we could not end this meeting that what we had feared and anticipated since days is happening. Explosions are reported in Kiev and in several other cities in Ukraine. Masks are finally down and tanks are in. As we speak, Russia is implementing its plan and attacking a neighbor to whom it has decided to deny existence, freedom, the land, dignity, and life. We call on all the members of the United Nations to rally in support of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, to stand with Ukraine and its people, to condemn firmly and unequivocally this aggression, to stand for peace, for rules, for international law, and take whatever measures they deem necessary to show the aggressor that its actions will bear consequences. Let me reiterate, Russia will be held responsible for the consequences of an unprovoked war, for the loss of human rights, for causing unbearable human pain, and for opting for destruction when we need development, for bringing death where we aspire for need and for hope, for choosing to become an outlaw when we need cooperation. Russia will bear historical blame and shame and the consequences of invading a neighboring country and attempting to destroy European security. Let's unite and make sure it will not succeed. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Albania, and I now give the floor to the representative of France for a further statement.
Mr.
President, at the time when we were in an emergency meeting to try to prevent the worst and from war breaking out, we all learned that the President of the Russian Federation had coordinated a special military operation in Donbass, and that Russia will do its utmost to demilitarize Ukraine. Russia has therefore chosen war. France condemns, in the strongest possible terms, the initiation of these operations. This decision, announced at the very moment when the Council was meeting, shows the disdain that Russia has for international law and for the United Nations. Russia must be accountable to the Security Council. For this reason, France will join its partners in this council, and in the hours to come, will prepare a resolution condemning the war conducted by Russia. We call on all members of this council to support us. Under these tragic circumstances, we call on the Russian Federation to respect international humanitarian law, no matter what the circumstances. We call for the protection and respect of all civilians, including particularly vulnerable persons, women, children, and humanitarian personnel. Thank you, sir.
I thank the representative of France, and I give the floor now to the representative of Ireland to make a further statement.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I spoke earlier, I said that the path for diplomacy and the path for dialogue was perilously narrow, and I didn't realize, in fact, how narrow and indeed how close to the precipice we really were just over an hour ago. We now see that that path has been closed by the announcement of a military aggression on the part of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. That is something that we roundly condemn. We stand with the people of Ukraine tonight, with every man, woman, and child who is seeing this news as we did, as we sat here in the chamber, and whose lives are at risk. We believe it is now time indeed for this council to stand up and assume its responsibility and to speak out in the strongest possible terms about this act of aggression. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Ireland, and I now give the floor to the representative of Ukraine to make a further statement.
Well, as I said, relinquish your duties as a chair. Call Putin, call Lavrov to stop aggression. And I welcome the decision of some members of this council to meet as soon as possible to consider the necessary decision that would condemn the aggression that you launch on my people. There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell, Ambassador.
I wanted to say in conclusion that we aren't being aggressive against the Ukrainian people, but against the junta that is in power in Kiev. There are no more speakers on the list. This meeting is adjourned.
So, Brad, you want to take that out of there? Oops. Do you want to tell us what you've researched in this bit of time? So who they kept talking to Mr. President and the what?
Yep. So it's the UN Security Council is what that was that we were watching. And the way that works is the UN Security Council, the presidency of that UN Security Council rotates between its members once a month every 15. I think there's 15 permanent members. But anyway, it rotates between them. There's a whole big long list going all the way back to like the 40s of it. But the month of February this year is Russia. The Russian Federation is the president of the United Nations Security Council until the end of the month of February.
So they were having a Security Council meeting before we started listening, right? Mm-hmm. And they were talking about what's going to happen and what is how do we work to instill peace? How do we still try to make something about this? And the president of that council meeting or that council is Russia. And then war breaks out in Ukraine. And then all of those people in that council just went around imploring the president to pull back in peace. And Ukraine just said the Ukrainian representative just said, you need to resign. You need to resign right now. War criminals go to hell. That's what he just said.
Yeah.
And then the Russian president of that council ended the meeting by saying, we're not doing anything to the Ukrainian people. I understood it as he said, we're doing it to the government. I can't remember the word he used.
Yeah, junta, military junta.
Is that what, Ryan, is that how you understood it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what that's what every government sitting there should have said. Hey, we're meeting because you decided to go to war. You should stop. And then the next person should speak and say that thing again. There's nothing more to it.
But, like, to be clear, there's, like, is it 2 countries that have absolute veto power in the United Nations? One of them's the United States and the other one's Russia. There's nothing the UN can do about this.
I don't know that. You know more about this stuff than I do.
Yeah, Russia could just veto it. So if the UN came up with a resolution to send in peacekeeping troops from its members, Russia could just veto it, and that's that. It doesn't happen.
So we were listening. Go ahead, what?
I was going to say the UN to me has always been just a useless deliberative body. It doesn't do any good.
So we were listening to Donald Trump's interview with Laura Ingraham, and then they said that they were going to the UN Council. It's 10 o'clock. Then we picked up the UN Council from their YouTube feed so we could bring it to you live here on this live stream. And Ryan, I want to ask you about this. I mean, we were listening to stuff that Trump said. First question is it right for Donald Trump to be commenting on this and criticizing Joe Biden as a president right now?
Boy, that's a complicated question.
Not what would they do, not how did they handle it. Is what, because we have to get back to asking ourselves or reminding ourselves that it is America first, and it has to be underscored America first. It is not Trump first. It is America first. That's his slogan. That's his focus mentality. But America first is not the same as Trump first.
He said one thing in there that I thought, well, I didn't disagree with pretty much anything he said, but is it appropriate for him to come out and say that right now? That's the question. The one thing he said that I thought really made it clear that it was about America and not about Trump was that he said, I'm so frustrated and angry about this right now as an American. And he hit on what I was like, me too. That's what's frustrating. And so I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I would like to think it's not. But
the thing that made me think the exact opposite thing is he got it in there, that none of this would have happened if we wouldn't have had a rigged election. And I tweeted this out because, it's on Twitter that he did that and said that. Whether you believe wholeheartedly that is completely and totally true, and, we could have hours of conversation about how accurate and true that is or isn't, whatever. This is not the time to talk about rigged elections. And until I can hear Trump come out in front of people when he has an audience and talk about what happens in the future, I'm over this. I cannot invest the future of this country in the the necessary proof of what happened in the past. I do understand that what happened in the past needs to be rectified to whatever extent, whatever happened, whatever. I've always firmly said that I think that the left was so effective at changing the laws leading up to the election that they were able to gray so many different areas that they made it impossible to go back and do checks and balances on what took place. There are other things that people have questions about. I understand that. But if finally he's proven right about that specific thing, like he's been proven right about the Russian hoax, like he's been proven right about what the Hillary Clinton campaign did to him, if he were to be proven right about that, that still doesn't make tomorrow any better at all for this country. And if you're going to come on to Laura Ingram's show on Fox News and comment about what's going on, there's probably some benefit that the American people can have as far as context of somebody who knows what's going on behind the scenes and can, weigh in on that. That's what all the other experts are doing on these shows. But to go on and to specifically say none of this would have happened if it weren't for a rigged election, I just feel like, why are we doing this right now? This moment is not about you. And even if you can connect the dots to where you can make it about you, stop doing that. Start talking about the future and give people something to look forward to, because as much as we would all like to understand more about what happened in the past, that doesn't make tomorrow better for me or for my kids. I think that I probably am making half the people watching us right now go, yeah, Annie, that's exactly right. And the other half be like, I don't know if I can ever watch her or listen to her again. So I'm a little scared to say that. And maybe even split the two of you.
I don't know. It's a nuanced question, because that phrase to me from Trump is basically the same as any other person saying elections have consequences. Because what he's saying is that is affecting this. And he's right. I mean, it is. If he were president right now, things would be different. And if we had not had the last year leading up to this moment, Russia would not have the incentive. He mentioned Afghanistan then quite a bit too.
And he's right about that. But I mean, for him to say, if I were president right now, things would be different. If I would have won the election, it would be different. For him to go back on his soapbox and talk about rigged elections, which is the phrase he uses, it's distracting. And it's a reflection on himself that he can't get past. And I don't think, I have in my life, I don't know if you guys have personal experiences like this before. I have in my life experienced incredibly unfair circumstances that cost my family or me dearly. And it had to do with some incredibly narcissistic people who lied. And when people found out that the stuff wasn't on the up and up, everybody just kind of cowered and backed away from it. And it ended. And, I lost something that was really important to me. My family lost something that was really important to us. And we had to walk away and we had to move on. God has greatly blessed us post that situation. But it is very difficult to look back on that, because there's no moment where you can go like, wow, that really ended the way it was supposed to end. Like the movie, the happy ending in the movie, when you're watching something like that happen to someone, and the payoff at the end of the movie that you're watching feels really good because it's complete. Like everything ended the way it was supposed to be. The bow has been tied. That didn't happen in my life, but I have to put, in my particular circumstances, I have to put myself in God's hands and know that God has used the good and the bad for the benefit of us. And he has done so. And I have to be humble in that. And I see what happened to Trump, and I see the same thing, where you have an instance where he was so screwed from the moment he announced that he was going to run for the presidency. he had this whole, I mean, there's still morons on Twitter right now who think that Donald Trump's, in bed with Vladimir Putin and wants, like, that is so impossibly, you have to be masterclass dumb to believe that. And yet it's everywhere. It's all over the place. People are very willing to be that dumb and believe that. So I could see why it would be stuck in his craw, but it doesn't do him any good, and it doesn't do the country any good for him to be so obsessed with it that's the wrong that needs to be righted is the last election. He's never going to win in another election if he doesn't stop talking about it. Brad, do you think, like, where you land on it?
Everybody gets cheated out of something in life. And sometimes whenever somebody cheats you out of something, or if you feel like you've been cheated out of something, it hurts, it's horrible, it's bad, but you can't go back in history and change it. You can learn from it, you can, advance from it, you can overcome it, but none of that happens whenever you keep going back to it and whining about it. Now, I'm going to say it, he's whining about it. You know what? If he believes that happened, that I can see why that would suck. I absolutely could see why it would suck.
I can also see why he believes that there was so much funny business that it's in question. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with him, but I'm like, you need to move on for us.
You look at all, it's silly to bring up movies, but you look at any of these movies where somebody cheats in the movie, and they always get the guy. I'll tell you what, stupid movie. I was watching the end of Days of Thunder tonight. Have you guys ever seen that movie with Tom Cruise? With Tom Cruise and is it Carrie Ellis?
I refuse to watch that movie.
Princess Bride. I know he's in Princess Bride.
Yeah, so he's kind of the villain at the end of the movie. And Tom Cruise pulls the same move on this guy every time, and the guy slams him. Don Dinkinger, exactly.
Yeah. It's something we can all relate to.
So he slams him into the wall. Every time Tom Cruise tries to pass him on the outside, he slams him in the wall. So finally, for the final pass on the final lap, Tom Cruise fakes the outside. This guy goes to block him on the outside, slams himself in the wall. Tom Cruise passes him on the inside. That's how you overcome dirty pool. That's how you overcome cheaters, is you learn what they're doing, and then you defeat it. And you don't tell them that you know what they're doing, and you don't whine about what they're doing.
Just deliver the blow.
You just deliver the blow. It's Hannibal. Whenever, you know who I'm talking about, Hannibal, the
Lecter?
No.
I don't know.
Carthage.
The city 2 hours north of here.
Nope.
Hannibal
is a military general from Carthage that brought Rome to its knees. He used to run the middle feign. He would let people think that his middle was failing, and all he would do is pull his middle forces back up and then hit them from the flanks. It's the same thing. You don't tell them what you're doing. You learn their tactics, and then you beat their tactics, and you don't tell them that you know their tactics. It's the same thing. Like, I just saw that Joe Biden, it was Zeke Miller on Twitter that said it, right? Is that Zeke Miller from the Associated Press, White House reporter? Anyway, he said that the Biden administration is going to announce additional sanctions tomorrow early in the afternoon. It's a real sense of urgency. But you don't announce, like, whenever he delivered that speech, I don't want to send troops into the Ukraine, but you don't take that off the table so that your enemy knows that that's actually off the table, even if it's off the table in your brain. You've got to play your cards close to your vest, and if Donald Trump is going to want to run for president again, which I think he does, I need him to be better at his strategy.
Better than everything else. And the other thing, too, you're so right, Brad, but just because I don't want him to talk about it doesn't mean that I don't want it to be talked about. Do you know what I'm saying? And there are plenty of people who are out there who are discussing this and advocating for, to get to the bottom of what did happen. And I'm not opposed to any of that taking place. It's just, he can't be the person. He can't be that guy. He has to rise above it if he wants to win an election. And yes, I understand. He thinks that he won the last one. If he wants to win an election, he's going to have to put together a plan to win the next one. He can't be putting together a plan to prove that he won the last one, because if he proves that he won the last one, which he has not successfully done so far, that does not change anything that's already taken place.
Right.
Do you like to hear him talk about it, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't think unless he talks about it, I don't think it gets talked about. So I think I don't know if he brings it up right then, but I think he has to continue to talk about it, or it just is going to go away. And it needs to be fixed. Like, there needs to be better election security, and it's happening. So that's good.
Ryan, don't you think, though, that if he would win the election, it would go away because then he would be in a position to do something about it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point.
So you've got to play the game to win the game.
But the way he plays the game is through the media. You know, like you talked about the dude not telegraphing your moves. Mm-hmm. Trump has always just blitzed, and he just keeps doing it.
Mm-hmm. But it's not working. Like, that's the problem.
So
it's
far,
not successful.
We're 1 year in. Now, if he wins again, it will have worked, and then he's going to have 4 years to make it work.
How's he going to win again, though? Like, how can he win again under these circumstances? Like, if the status quo doesn't change, I don't think he can win again.
I don't know if you mean like the environment in the nation or the status quo of elections, but with elections, they actually are getting more secure in states that matter. So I think in that sense, he has changed the status quo.
Real quick here, Matt Vespa, who is the senior editor of townhall.com, just said, his tweet is, "Did I hear that right? Peter Doocy says we're not going to hear from Biden until tomorrow afternoon."
Yeah.
So that'll probably be during our show.
Oh my gosh.
It said early afternoon.
I thought he was going to say something tonight.
Philip Melanchthon Wegman, what a name. White House reporter for Real Clear News. White House official per Pooler. Tomorrow in the early afternoon, President Biden will deliver remarks announcing further consequences the United States and our allies and partners will impose on Russia for its unprovoked and unjustified attack on Ukraine. This might be we go live an hour earlier. I'm going to text Trisha.
Yeah, well, it depends on when it is. It'll certainly be in our slot, probably.
Early afternoon could be 11.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes right at noon for their time.
Could also be 3 o'clock, too, the way he operates.
Right. Well, it says early afternoon. Just since nobody's talking, I'm going to read this. Gallup says 36% of Americans approve the way President Joe Biden is handling the situation with Russia. That's actually
people.
That's right. Right. I didn't even think about that. You're like,
who are these? That's over a 36%. Third. Remember when back just like 5 minutes ago when I was talking about the rampant dumb that exists in the world?
This is 30%.
1 out of 3.
Gallup is a pretty good poller.
Polls.
They're fairly reputable. That's actually below his approval rating. So
less people approve of what he's doing than approve of him in general?
Yes.
Ooh.
So this is not going to, politically in the United States, it's not going to fare well for him, apparently.
It's like the Bugs Bunny cartoons when Elmer Fudd raises the gun up to shoot Bugs Bunny and he sticks a carrot in the end and the gun blows back in his face.
It is exactly like that. It is literally the same thing.
Ryan, you're using that word and I'm not sure you know what it means.
So boss man Steve, I messaged him and said, can we go live at 11 a.m. if Biden is speaking? And he said, absolutely. So Ryan, you want to sit in there with me? And Brad.
Yeah. Yes, but I have an interview at 11, so I'll be
like a job interview or a
job interview. Yeah, I'm moving back.
If that doesn't work out, I'll come back and schlep it with you, Amy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think he's going to go right at noon anyway, though, or 11 our time. So
what we'll do is
we'll be ready for it.
So for you 45 people right now who are watching, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. It's like, seriously, my computer screen right now, my monitor, the reason I came downstairs into my studio is because something happened to my monitor and like there's a strip on the side of the monitor that's not showing anymore and has like those lines of death. And it's happening on the bottom. When I opened it up, I had it outside in the car. I think it got too cold. Half the screen wasn't working. So I came downstairs to plug it into my external monitor so I could start backing everything up in case it decides to go kaputski, which is a new word. And so I'm down here. It is. the invasion is beginning. They're in my brain, which is really difficult to do at 10 o'clock at night. But being able to come on here and talk to folks, I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. We're getting really close to 2,700 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and chances are if you're here, you were subscribed because you probably got a notification that I went live. But the way it'll work tomorrow is we'll be ready to go live at 11 a.m. if, in fact, the president, it says that he's going to speak early afternoon. If we'll just monitor it and we'll break in with live coverage, and then we'll Brad and Ryan and I, or Brad and I, can pick up wherever that leaves off, so that we have the latest. I mean, part of me wonders if, is this ever going to make it to the United States? Like, is this ever going to become our problem? Or is this just a problem that exists in the world that's going to have, third rail consequences for us, and it's going to suck for us until it's rectified? We could change presidents and handle a lot of these problems for us on the stateside, but that's not going to happen for a while. So it will just be a play it by ear thing tomorrow, and we'll be here live again, so that, I mean, for me and Ryan, Brad, you certainly know, because you were part of the conversation before you were the producer. But Ken says, are you going to go live from the studio tomorrow? Yeah, at 11 a.m. I forgot about the weather. I intend to be into the studio. I assume by that time tomorrow that the roads will be passable. But it's very helpful to have people reacting on the comments here in the live chat, and to kind of take your pulse, and to know, like, some of you are very concerned about this. Other you predicted that this was going on, and other you are saying we need to be talking about other issues. So Amanda says, like, radio live or Facebook live, both. We are going to take over the 97.1 broadcast with Joe Biden tomorrow when he speaks, which they're saying early afternoon. And Steve's texting me. And so we'll just, if it's early afternoon, that means that it could be 12 o'clock Eastern, which is 11 o'clock our time. And we'll take it. We'll cover it live, because I don't know that Brian Kilmeade will not cover it live, because he runs a syndicated show and he has a lot of specific things that he has to cover. But it'll be important, and we will do that. So tomorrow morning, is Mark Cox in Orlando right now?
I know he left today.
Yep,
so.
He'll be there. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, be sure to tune in to Mark in the morning on 97.1. He streams normally on his show Facebook, at the station Facebook maybe, but I don't know if he'll be doing that from there. But he might have access to some pretty interesting guests, because he'll be live at CPAC. Tommy says he was live today. He did a show in St. Louis today, though, right?
Yeah, I saw him in studio.
Yeah. He's not in Orlando swinging, so yeah. All right. My screen limit has been reached, which means that Jared probably turned the news on upstairs.
He's like, so. I'm going to watch TV. I'm tired of Annie.
I messaged him and was like, do you know what's going on? Well, the kids all got school canceled, so I think they were playing video games. So I'm like, do you know what's going on? He's like, yeah, he had no idea. He's like, are you still working on your computer? I'm like, I've been live for 120 minutes. He's like, okay.
People are saying that Mark was live tonight, so we might have been competing with him and didn't know it.
Oh, was he live on his Facebook page?
People are saying that he did something.
He did a live show tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you all for being here, and support him as well. Make sure you go like his Facebook page. It's a weird time to be alive, and I feel blessed that I get to cover it, especially with you guys. And it's kind of scary sometimes too. I'm just not gonna lie, because I am covering things, and Ryan, you've got kids, and you see all these things as a professional broadcaster, and then every once in a while there will be this glimmer of, what about your kids? And that hit me hard with COVID there, especially at the very beginning when we didn't know what was going on. When honestly, when they decided to put us all, tell Illinois shut down and we all went to our houses and I had my kids under the roof and we didn't go anywhere, as a mom, that warmed my mom heart because I had my people. And then in different ways, then it was like, we need to get out of the house. So we cover these things, and I know that we don't always do an A+ job, but we're always trying to. And coming to you on a live stream for 2 hours on a Wednesday night makeup list from the treadmill, of which I will tell you, I did 1.95 miles in 30 minutes, and it was run walk. And I run at a 6 and I walk at a 3.5. And I was thinking, this is probably lame. And other people out there are probably way better than that. But the important thing is that I tried.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's frustrating is whenever you've gotten really good.
You know what you're capable of?
Yeah, and then you have to stop. That's frustrating. And then you're trying to get back and you're like, why can't I get back to what I used to do?
When people were asking where you were, Ryan, Brad suggested that you were laying on a beanbag covered in gummy bears.
No, I don't even have a beanbag chair. That's dumb.
But you have enough gummy bears, don't you?
The gummy bears.
Yeah, I do. I was actually lifting, just so you know.
You know the boot camp where you take the group photo at the end, and it's like
he popped his headband off right before he.
No matter what Annie asked me, what are you doing right now? It's always lifting.
It's like
lifting.
Chris Cuomo's not on TV doing it now. Somebody's got to.
He's tossing around iron, listening to Taylor Swift.
Still don't understand the Taylor Swift thing.
I don't either.
All right. On that note, folks,
see
it's
you
time.
Poopy time. Eat it.
No. Good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.